Live on YouTube and Google+, it's Pageant Live. This is the place for glamour and style. Get great pageant tips you won't find anywhere else. Find out what you need to know before your next pageant. Post your questions and comments for our panel during the show. Learn great ideas about all aspects of pageantry. Here we go. Pageant Live starts right now.
Hello and welcome to Pageant Live. I'm Stephanie McGreen, and tonight's guests will be discussing the Mrs. America system. So if you're thinking about competing or you just want some great pageant tips, you don't want to miss tonight's show. Let's start by meeting our incredible guests, beginning with Austen.
Hello everybody, I am Austen Williams and I am Mrs. America 2014.
Welcome, Austen. So glad to have you with us tonight.
Always a pleasure.
And next, let's move on to Zereana.
Good evening. My name is Zereana Jess-Huff, and I am Mrs. Maryland America 2014.
Welcome, Zereana.
Thank
so
you.
Happy to have you.
Thanks.
And Janice, we'll move on to you next.
Hi, I'm Janice Celeste, and I am Mrs. Morris County, New Jersey, America. How are you?
So happy to have you, Janice.
Thank you.
For all of you that have been keeping up with Pageant Live and Ask the Crown, you know that Janice was one of our Tippy Top Shoe winners. Yay!
Wait.
I love my tippy top shoes.
Oh, and there they are! Excellent, excellent. And Kyle, let's move on to you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Kyle Ian Haggerty, national level pageant coach, the guy that produces winners, and co-host of Pageant Verite right here on Pageant Live. So I'm really excited to be here.
Welcome, Kyle. So happy to have you. So happy to have all of you tonight. So let's begin by having you ladies discuss what level of competition within the Mrs. America system you are getting ready to compete in. So Janice, let's start with you.
Well, I'm at the bottom level. I'm going to compete in my state title for Mrs. New Jersey, and that will take place May 18th in Princeton, New Jersey. I'm very excited to go. This will be my second time competing in a state pageant. I did so many, many years ago. I don't want to tell my age, but many, many years ago for Mrs. Pennsylvania. And I placed pretty high there. I was first runner-up, so I'm like, oh, so hopefully this time around, we can do something, see what happens.
Plus, you'll have those awesome tippy tops on, right?
Absolutely, those are my lucky winning shoes, so let's see what we can do.
Perfect, that's right. Bring back that crown.
Oh, I hope so. Let's do it.
And Zereana, how about you?
So I am competing at Mrs. America 2014, and the date's still to be determined, but we think it's in August in Tucson. Austen, if you know anything I don't know, please let me know. But yes, I'm competing at Mrs. America, and I guess I can say now I am a pageant veteran, which is odd for me because I haven't been much of a competitor. I started in 2008, so for me it still feels very, very new, but I am super excited to be with the America family and to get to experience everything the system has to offer this year.
Well, so exciting. Wonderful. And Austen, what about you?
I'm getting ready to go to Mrs. World in Bulgaria, May 17th. At least that's what they told me last time. So we'll see.
So exciting. I'm excited for all of you ladies. Okay, so now Zereana, you have won your state title.
Yes.
And I know that Janice will be competing for her state title. So being the state title holder, what advice do you have for Janice? What tips and advice can you give her?
Yeah, absolutely. So Janice, I'm sure we're going to have lots of time to talk before your pageant comes up. But for me, when I was preparing for Mrs. Maryland America, it was really about breaking up the phases of competition and really trying to understand what it was I wanted to accomplish in each section. So I really compartmentalized. I noticed Paige is adjusting my audio, so am I talking too loud or am I okay? I'm fine? Okay. For me, it was really just, again, about understanding each phase of competition. So starting with interview, obviously you're looking at wardrobe and you're really trying to make sure that you're choosing something that's complementary to your body, to your personality. And for me, our pageant was in October, so I went with a burnt orange suit. And I didn't think I could pull off burnt orange, but I have to tell you, I got a compliment from every single judge. For the pageant interview itself, ours was seated. You want to find out which type of interview. Is it panel style? Is it seated? Is it one-to-one? And so we were given that information in advance. It doesn't hurt either if you know who your judges are as well, so that you can study up and understand or know a little bit about them. There's tons of tutorials out there that give you pageant questions, and I highly recommend you practice interviewing with your spouse or even your kids if you're able to. But for me, it was really about knowing myself. It was about knowing who I am, what's my purpose, what's my theme, what's my general message. And you can take this or not take this, but I spent a lot of time in contemplative prayer prior to my pageant, really just having conversations with my God and talking about what was important to me and what I really wanted to accomplish. And I felt like by doing that, I opened up so much of myself that I didn't even know existed. And so when I got into that room, I was so confident about who I was and what it was I wanted to do. And I think that came across very, very clear in the interview. For me, interviews about making connection, making contact. So eye-to-eye contact throughout the whole interview was very important. And I felt each time I left the table and each judge that I had made a connection with them. And to me, that's a winning interview. So that was kind of my general aim for interview. Looking at the onstage phase of the competition, I can't say enough about hiring a modeling coach if you're able to, somebody who can teach you how to walk. To me, it speaks volumes, people who've learned how to walk and people who haven't. I mean, it truly does on stage. And the best way to, I think, get a handle on where you stand with it is to have your husband tape you in your tippy-top shoes. Make sure he's taping you so you can see yourself. It's funny because I practiced and I practiced and I practiced, and I got the DVD back last week, and I swear I counted at least 50 mistakes that I had made in swimsuit and also in gown. And so even when you think you have it right, you can still find things that you pick. And for me, I won't be making those mistakes at Mrs. America, but it was nice to be able to see that on tape, so I highly encourage you to do that. And then flipping back to interview really quick, one thing I didn't say that I did that was actually quite helpful was I practiced entering a room and sitting down. I know that sounds really crazy, but I must have sat down in a chair 50 times. But when you're in the moment and you're working with judges, you have to be graceful, you have to be poised. And so for me, even practicing entering a chair and sitting down and sitting up, it felt like a second skin because I had done it so much through practice. So again, understanding each phase of competition, knowing in advance what it is you want to accomplish, and then obviously utilizing me and Austen if you can prior to your pageant. I know I'm always happy to help you, and I'm sure Austen is as well.
Oh, thank you. That's awesome advice. Awesome advice. Thank you so much.
So Stephanie, anything else you want me to elaborate on?
Those are great tips. Love them. Well, Janice, do you have any specific questions for Zereana about anything she said?
I do, and I know that this pageant, it seems like traditionally for interview that suits are worn, but it seems like that today a lot of dresses are being worn in many of the other pageant systems. Is that something that you've seen at Mrs. America? Have you seen more ladies wearing dresses, or is it more traditionally suits at this state level?
Well, at the state level, we saw a wide array. I think we had 3 girls in dresses and then a couple in suits. To me, like a traditional suit, it's almost too much. To me, you want to look like every woman. Like when I say every woman, like that special woman. So you want something that really brings you out. So mine was actually, it was a dress, but I had a jacket over, but the jacket didn't have a collar on it, and I can send you photos. But it didn't deter from me. I didn't have flashy jewelry on. It just sort of accentuated my brunette hair, my brown eyes. It wasn't something that was sort of over the top. To me, I don't know, I feel like the suit looks almost a little dated, but I'm not casual enough to just do a straight dress. So I did a knit suit, which I know some people may think is dated, but I thought it actually looked fresh. And like I said, I got so many compliments from the judges. Another competitor that was there wore a red knit suit, and I thought it looked stunning on her. So my recommendation, but it's really personal preference and what looks good on you. If you want to take some shots and send it over to me, I'd be happy to take a look for you. But I don't know, I tend to think a suit with a full collar, like a gray or a black suit's just a little bit dated.
Yeah,
and it's probably not, I mean, Janice, just having spoken to you for a couple minutes, it's probably not your personality type, and you want to dress to who you are, and I just think that that's maybe a little too stuffy for you. You're too fun for that, so.
I do. I have a very fun personality, and it does get expressed in my clothing. And I think, if I remember correctly from the paperwork, and if it hasn't changed, our interview is supposed to be round robin, so that's close up. And do you recommend for a close-up more detail in the interview suit, since they'll be seeing that more, you know, up close?
I don't. I mean, if you want to do a little bit of embellishment, that's fine, but I don't recommend like crazy patterns or anything, because it's all about, you want the focus to be right here on your face. I don't think you want it to be, you know, so much on what you're wearing. But because if you are doing round robin now that we know you are, just make sure you've practiced how to stand with your back to the judges, that you're not standing directly back in front of them where they can see like all your business and all your backside. You want to kind of turn just a little bit. And then when you turn to go into the seat, you want to practice how you do that as well. And then you also want to make a determination, or at least ask the director in advance, are you shaking hands or are you not shaking hands? That's always helpful to know too. And Austen may have some thoughts about that. About whether or not to do that. It can get old for a judge, depending on how many people are competing, to have to shake everybody's hand. So, you know, if I was competing against 50 women, I don't know that I would do it. But it's a nice touch, I think, when you can.
Okay. No, that's all great advice. One of the things that I do have issues with, and I think that I notice it and no one else does, but my cheeks quiver when I smile a lot, and I tend to smile a lot. And I know there are facial exercises you can do when you turn away from the judges, such as, you know, all that stuff like that, you know. But
well, you'll have to teach it to me, because I don't know. I've
heard people doing that when they turn away from the judges, you know, and they have their backs on stage. They do all kinds of weird facial things. But you know, my cheeks quiver. I mean, they really quiver. But I notice it, but other people tell me they never see it. But I'm just wondering if anyone knows, like, a trick to that, just stop it. That would be great. I just hate when that happens.
I don't know, Kyle, Austen, I need to know too.
I can tell you. I can tell you. Hey, Stephanie, I'm going to do one of my quotes. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Janice, what you think is what you project. Okay? So
that is absolutely true.
If you think that you're fierce and you're fabulous and get into this dress, my body is right, you know, get into it because it's all about me, then your confidence, you're not going to quiver. You know, if you're quivering, it's because in your mind you're probably second guessing, because it's also been a while since you've competed. So what I think that you need to do is that instead of worrying about facial exercises, think about frame of mind. You know, when you're on stage, what are you thinking? And I think that once you cross that bridge and get your mindset in order, then I think that you will see a change in that.
Okay. So maybe it is, because sometimes I just feel like, oh, how I'm tired of smiling right now. But okay.
Well, why would you be tired of smiling? Why would you be tired of smiling if you're thinking, I'm about to go to Miss America? Mrs. America? Why are you going to stop smiling?
I have to get a different mindset probably at that moment. I don't know, but I don't know what it is. But I notice sometimes my cheeks get tired, because I smile all the time. I think my muscles just get tired. I literally smile all the time. See these cheeks? They didn't get there by just happenstance. They work out. They get a workout.
Can I give you one more piece of advice on that, and then, you know, Stephanie, we can move on. Is you also, when you're doing your modeling training, you know, we'll talk a little bit about that later, you may want to do what I refer to as facial choreography. There is such a thing. You know, you need to hit your projection points and your facial choreography. That's a whole different level of coaching, so I won't go into it now, but there are ways to get through that.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much.
Also, Janice, I think it's important to take into consideration that, especially in interview competition, when we're having conversations with people, we don't necessarily smile the whole time. And I think sometimes we have this preconceived notion that we have to be like, hi, how are you? Yes, everything I'm talking about is worth smiling for.
True.
And that's not authentic. It's not real. That's not how we talk to people. Right. And it's important for us, especially when we're interacting with judges, that we talk to them like they're people, because they are. And our job as title holders is to be conversational, it's to be engaging, it's to draw people in and make people want to open up to us so that we can encourage them and tell them that they can be more and expect more and all of those wonderful things that we get to do as title holders. So I would also say, don't feel like you have to smile the whole time, and don't feel like if you're not smiling, then you're not projecting positivity and good attitude and all of those kinds of things, because you can certainly project all of those things without cheesing the whole time, and that also gives you an opportunity to allow your muscles to relax.
Yeah, that's my concern. Isn't that so much smiling in interview? It's always on stage. It's always on stage. When I'm standing there waiting for maybe someone else to pass by, or you're just standing in the background, you're smiling, and you're just I'm like smiling. So that's what I was more so referring to.
It applies to that. I mean, there were certainly, I was in Texas. I'm at the very, very end, and during state costume, I was on stage while every single girl walked out in front of me. And we were on stage for a long time, and there were like 20 of us in the back, and we just weren't smiling because no one could see us anyway. Don't feel like you have to smile the whole time. You can go from a big full smile and then do a smolder, do a smirk. You can do different things with your face and it not be a full smile. And again, that gives you an opportunity to let your face muscles relax.
Okay. Good advice. Thank you.
Loving the advice. Excellent. Well, Austen, what other tips can you give to Zereana and to Janice about competing?
I think, in my opinion, Mrs. America is a pageant that you win an interview. I think that the interview competition is so important. And I know a lot of people have differing opinions about this, but I think it's so important to just be conversational. As I mentioned earlier, it's important to remember that these judges are just people. And after I won Mrs. America, the judges kept coming up to me and saying, you know, we loved you right after your interview. You just talked to us. You talked to us like you were normal, like you were a woman, and this is who you are. You weren't trying to be anything. You weren't trying to put on a show. And that, like Zereana said, before my interview, I just wanted to go in and be who I was. I wasn't trying to do any pomp and circumstance. I just kind of have a this is who I am attitude. I have warts and all, like this what you see is what you get. This is it. And that's what I tried to show to the judges. I'm not a perfect woman, but I am a woman who attempts to be well-rounded. I am a woman who tries to be great every day, regardless of whether or not I'm Mrs. America. And I think that's the type of woman who deserves to be Mrs. America or Mrs. New Jersey. It's the woman who is great every day because she can be. She can be regardless of whether or not she has a crown. And I think if we as women focus on being great, being well-rounded, being intelligent and conversational and encouraging and great wives and great mothers, then we can really serve our communities, we can serve our families, and we can have opportunities to do cool things like be Mrs. America in the process. So I think as long as we're focusing on being great, that's the best thing you can do in preparing for an interview, as long as you're preparing to be conversational and human and authentic. I think that's what won me Mrs. America. Beyond that, you know, as far as clothing is concerned and wardrobe and all of those kinds of things, I think it's important to find clothes that reflect who you are. I know Zereana mentioned earlier about, you know, what worked best for her was a dress with a jacket. But a jacket would never work for a person like me because I'm not that business. That's not my style. That's not who I am. And I think it's important to be professional and classy and simple so you're not taking anything away from your facial beauty, because that does absolutely play a role in the scoring of Mrs. America and the interview competition. But you still have to exude your personal style. So I wore, for example, a simple white dress with a peplum accent, but I had on this big, huge pearl necklace that had a huge diamond accent on it, and every single judge went, "Oh my goodness, that's such a beautiful necklace." Even judges who probably didn't actually care too much about my necklace, but that was my statement piece, and I wore I think I wore these little pearl earrings, and that was it, and that was good enough for me. And so I think it's important to just make sure that whatever you're wearing, whatever your evening gown is, it's something that shows who you are, So in every portion of competition, you are literally showing the judges who you are. You're not trying to be the perfect beauty queen or the perfect wife or the perfect anything. You're just trying to be the perfect you.
Austen, I love that. Being the perfect you. I think that's fabulous. And Kyle, what about you? Coming in as our coach.
Is it my turn?
It is your turn, Kyle. We want to know what you have to say.
Okay, well, I'll keep it as brief as I can, even though I don't know the meaning of the word brief. But I've been listening to the ladies, and first of all, congratulations to each of you for the titles in which you achieved, and I'm very confident that you all will do very well, you know, moving to your next level of competition. I do have numerous comments about some things that were said. Some of it I agree with, somewhat not as much so. You know, I always like to say that I don't disagree, that I have a different perspective. So I want to kind of share my perspective with you. I want to start with our reigning Mrs. Maryland. I do agree with you that interview is about connection. Okay, I am definitely there with you on that. But at the end of the day, even if you connect, if you're not prepared, it doesn't matter. So I think that you have to be very prepared in your platform information. You have to be very prepared on what's going on in the world today with your current events. And you also have to be prepared with issues that involve family and children and education and finances and the economy. And I'm sure that you were very briefed on that when you competed. But I think that I just want to let the married women know out there is having a great personality and a great outfit is not enough. You must nail it down to the wall in all those other areas, because for the mere fact you are a Mrs. Contestant. You know, and that, I know for Mrs., in many ways an interview, I expect a higher level from Mrs., because at the end of the day, you have a husband, you have children, you know, some of you all go to work. You have to be everything to everyone. Mm-hmm. And that has to come out in interviews. So I just kind of wanted to add on to that. Another thing that she said is how important a modeling coach is. Well, no one knows how important a modeling coach is other than me. You know, I get to travel the country teaching modeling, and the one thing that I always say is that I don't care how pretty you are, I don't care how great your body is, and I don't care how great the gown is. If you walk like a truck driver, you are not winning. So, you know, I think that it's very important that you do get a modeling coach. You know, I have people that have other coaches that they work with as their local coach that will fly me in to do nothing but modeling, because modeling is that important. So I definitely agree with you, you know, on that. Oh, and another thing, the standing and sitting process, especially in the Mrs. pageant and around robin, is crucial. That is very important. And the mere fact that you practice that is why you're going Mrs. America, okay? Because just by the mere fact that you took your level of polish to the next level, because some people who are not coached don't understand how important the handshake is. You know, there's a certain way you should handshake. There's a certain way you should sit down. There is a certain way you should turn around. So again, kudos for you. Janice, she gave you some wonderful advice with that. Now, Mrs. Maryland, there is a place where I have a different point of view. We'll put it that way. Is when you talk about some suits being dated and that kind of thing. In some cases, you're right, and I think in some cases we may need to rethink it. When I work with the client, I base it on her interview style, especially in the interview process at the Mrs. pageants. If a young lady is a CEO of a company and she is at her most comfortable wearing a gray suit, you know, a white blouse and black heels, and that's where she excels, then that's what I'm going to put her in. You know, we have to be very careful, and I agree with you that you got to be true to you. Austen, I agree with you with that. You know, must represent your personality. But at the end of the day, if the young lady's personality is one thing, if we try to deviate too much from that, then she's not being true to her. Mm-hmm. So I would be really careful about calling something dated or not dated. That's just a different perspective that I want to put out there. And then, let's see here. Austen, let me comment about something. First of all, I see how you won Mrs. America. For real. I see it all day long and twice on Sunday. I think you're fantastic. You know, you're beautiful, and I definitely understand why the judges, you know, said that about you. And I think the one thing that worked in your favor, if what I hear is correct and what other coaches have told me about you, is that you also had what was called a halo effect. And for those of you all who out there know, the reason why interview is so important is that in most pageants, it's the first thing that the judges see. It's your first impression. And so if they like you, you get what's called a halo effect. Okay? So if you're between, let's say, a 7 and an 8 in swimsuit, if they like you in interview, you'll probably get the 8 instead of the 7. Okay? So, you know, I think the halo effect is very important. Stephanie, do I have a moment to say a couple of other things, or am I out of town? Because, you know, I could just keep going all night.
No, absolutely. Keep going, Kyle. We love your advice.
Okay. I want to talk about some issues about the Mrs. pageants that I think that Mrs. contestants need to think about. The one question or comment that I get from Mrs. and I want to get a comment from each of you about it. And just so you know, my mother went to Mrs. United States in 1993. You know, so I know this whole Mrs. thing from a personal experience. Is that, you know, you could be in your 40s and competing against a girl that's 24, you know, who can still go to Miss USA or who can still go to Miss America, but because she's married, you can be much older. You know, there's a 10, 15-year difference between you and a younger contestant. I'm just curious to know, how do you all feel about that before I kind of give my advice on that?
Well, I don't look like I'm 40 yet, I don't think, so I don't really worry much about age. But I've talked to some of my pageant sisters, and I hear that sort of self-doubt come in. I don't know, maybe when I'm there, I would think more about it, but it's not something I'm too worried about right now. So I don't know that I can speak too intelligibly to it. Austen, you look about my age, well, maybe a lot younger. So what do you think?
You know, I think that there are a lot of things to take into consideration with your question, Kyle, because on the one hand, you could be speaking about older women who are competing against someone who is at their physical prime. They might not necessarily have had children. They might not have the battle scars that people who have had children may have. And then you, on the swing side of that, you might have someone who's very young who might not have the life experience or be able to speak with maybe as much wisdom as somebody who is older. And so I think what is important about a Mrs. Pageant is that it represents all of those women. So case in point, a few weeks ago, I had a friend who was interested in competing in Mrs. Texas, which was my state title. And she said, you know, Austen, is it Miss America? Is it Miss USA? I know you competed in the USA system and the America system. What's the deal? Like, is this as cheesy as I think that it might be? And admittedly, before I competed in a Mrs. Pageant, I kind of had the same kind of preconceived notion about what it meant to be a Mrs. contestant. You know, oh, they're women who, they couldn't give it up. They went through their Miss years and their teen years and they're still competing. What's really going on? And for me, after I had my second kid, I poured so much into my family, into being a mom. I have battle scars from having children. I needed to do something to make me feel beautiful again. I needed some encouragement so that I wouldn't be squishy everywhere, because I was. And so for me, what was helpful was having an opportunity to be beautiful again, to be the woman that my husband married. And going to Mrs. Texas and going to Mrs. America gave me an opportunity to talk about things that I'm passionate about, beyond my family and my children. Though, you know, it is Mrs. America, very little about what I spoke about in my interview had to do with them specifically. It had to do with so many other things that make me who I am, other things that make me want to change the world and make the world better for my son and my daughter. And so what I told her is, you know, it's not just about having style or being successful, having a career, being able to do service. It's about showing young women that you can have style and be successful and have a career, and you can do it as a wife and a mother. What's more important than that? Mm-hmm. Being a Mrs. Contestant isn't a sham, whether or not you're 18 or you're 45. Some of the most inspiring women I competed against were the older women who could pour into me and share what life was like when they were young and married. Because we represent them too, if you're younger than them. For women who haven't necessarily been married as long as you have, you can encourage them and pour into them. And you can look at them and remember what life was like maybe when you were honeymooning still. it's a beautiful, beautiful process, and it's something that is so special that we can show to young girls, more than just being beautiful and talented or whatever. You can be a well-rounded woman, and that's what a Mrs. title can do for you. And that's why it's great that you can be 18 or 45 or 50 or 100, whatever it is.
And Kyle, I wanted to share with you, I competed at Mrs. International in 2010 and I placed top 5, and I was really worried about that pageant because at the time I think I was 32 and I looked like I was 21, and I know in my mind I had gotten this idea that they typically want women who are in their late 30s, maybe even early 40s, and so I was really concerned about my appearance. And I remember I sat down and I had a conversation with my husband. I said, I don't know about this pageant. I don't know if it's going to work out for me. I remember sitting down and him saying, Zereana, you have lived a lifetime since you were born. You've just lived a tremendous full life. Think of all the experiences you've had. Think of all the things you've done that even people your own age have not done. Dig deep in that and show that. Let it shine. And I think that's kind of what Austen was talking about, is just your inner light, who you are, and embracing whatever phase you are at in life and being open and willing to share that with others. And I think that's why I ended up placing top 5, because that was in the back of my mind circulating, not what I appeared like on stage or how old I didn't look. So,
well, the one thing that we haven't talked about, and I want to bring this up because I deal with this with my married contestants all the time, are your husbands. Let's talk about husbands for a moment. You have 2 types of husbands. You have, well, actually 3. You have one that write checks, don't care, and just will show up. That's the first one. You have the other one that's a sports coach that want to tell you how you should compete like they know anything about being in a pageant. Or you have the third coach that should be the third husband that should be in the pageant because they want to get up on stage with you all the time. So my question to the 3 of you is, what type of husband do you have? So if I ever work with you, I know what I'm dealing with.
I don't mind to say this because I am the 4th that you didn't mention. That's the one that runs from the room and hides. Like that's the social anxiety. Cannot stand it. He actually will tell me, no, you can't do that pageant based on whether or not he's going to have to get on stage. So at International he had to be on stage, and that just mortified him. So he is so far removed, it's so out of his realm, he just doesn't even know what to do with it. And I think secretly he's fascinated by it, but ultimately he tries to stay away from it as much as possible because it's almost too overwhelming for him, especially when we're out in crowds and we're in front of people. And the great thing about Michael is he loves me, and I know he loves me because he wouldn't do it if he didn't. So there's a 4th type, and that's mine.
Serena, I have a Michael too, and he writes the checks. Yeah. He writes the checks. He doesn't want to know how much it is. No, he really doesn't. And I try not to tell him how much it is if I can help it. But he'd rather be at the bar somewhere while everything is going on. He's not into pageants at all. He doesn't want to know, even though I want to tell him everything. He's like, I really don't want to know.
Right.
So, but he really isn't into it. But he knows that I'm into it to just better myself. And I just want to go back a little bit because I'm probably the oldest one here because I'm pushing closer to 50 years old. And I haven't had any work done. I haven't had any Botox. I haven't had anything. And
you're beautiful.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I totally got into pageantry to get myself in shape and get myself together and to better myself. And that's why I'm here. And I remember having so much fun the weekend I did it. And I'll tell you, 20 years ago for Mrs. Pennsylvania, I had the time of my life. And when I did it, I never forgot it and always wanted to do it again. And I couldn't afford to do it again. It was so expensive to buy those dresses and swimsuits. And so when I found out that I could do it again and I had to get into a swimsuit again to compete against young girls, I'm going to admit, it was very intimidating, that thought. And so it made me hit the gym. And I never hit the gym before in my life. I never had to because I was always skinny. I never had an issue until I hit midlife. So I hit the gym like never before, and I lost 40 pounds, and I'm still losing. And I've toned up like I've never toned up in my entire life. I'm probably in better shape now than I was in my 20s. And even though I was skinnier, I'm in better shape now. So I must tell you, I am ready to compete with girls half my age. And if I happen to win this, I told my husband on my tombstone, you're gonna put this on my tombstone. Okay? When I die, that's morbid, but that's going on my tombstone.
The one thing, that's awesome. The one thing that I want to say real quick before we run out of time is that the great thing that we have in this conversation is that we got three, outstanding young women. And I don't care what your age is. At the end of the day, you're a beautiful woman competing to do something positive. And the one thing that I want to talk about, in my humble opinion, is where your focus should be going to the next level. So I'm going to start with Janice.
Yes, sir.
Janice, your focus, in my eyes, should be you need to show that judge panel that you're ready to go to Mrs. America, that you're going to represent the Garden State to the best of your ability. You need to be able to jump on the airplane tomorrow.
I'm ready.
Tomorrow.
I'm ready.
Okay.
I'm ready. I've been doing the job every day. I am ready.
Right. And I know you've been advocating your platform, and one of the last things I want to talk about is that for Mrs. Maryland, who's going, am I pronouncing it right? Zereana, is that correct?
Yes,
am I pronouncing
it's
okay.
Zereana, correct.
Okay. To me, the focus for you, in my opinion, is walking in it. When I listen to you talk like a Mrs. America to me. And so instead of just showing them that, yes, I can compete, I think as Miss Maryland, you need to show them that you can do the job, because at the end of the day, and I'm sure Austen will agree, being Mrs. America is a job. Because by the mere fact that you won Mrs. Maryland, that tells me, A, you're very pretty. That means your swimsuit's in order, your interview is in order, your modeling is in order, your package is in order, or you wouldn't be Mrs. Maryland. That's kind of how I look at it. So I look at it as more as when you go, we would really talk about the job, because you've already proven that you know how to compete. Austen, you're going to the big dance. You're going to Mrs. World. At the end of the day, an international title is an ambassador position. You're representing all the married women in the world. Okay? You're already beautiful. You won Mrs. America. You have nothing to prove. Okay? And so in my eyes, it's not only just being competition prepared, but it's having your ambassador skills in order, so when you are there, they don't only see you as Mrs. America, but understand that you can travel the world talking about issues that are congruent with every single married woman in the world, and being able to advocate that. And so, on a different level, just outside of your body being in order and your clothes being in order and having good modeling, where your mindset needs to be to really take it to the next level in order to be successful. So, just my thoughts.
Love your advice, Kyle. I loved all of your tips and advice. What a fabulous conversation. And Austen, I want to go back to you because we didn't get a chance to hear about your hubby. So tell us about him.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, we have to talk about the captain. He will take that so personally. No, so after I won Mrs. America, everybody was like, Mr. America. He was like, I'm Captain America.
I love it. I love it.
He's the fifth kind, Kyle. I call him my trophy husband, because he just will go with me on appearances, and he'll hold my purse if I need him to hold my purse. He's perfectly cool being in the background. He doesn't really tell me what to do. He's just there to encourage me. And really, honestly, I would never have been Mrs. Texas, and I would have never been Mrs. America if it hadn't been for him, because I about maybe 2-3 weeks before Mrs. Texas, after I had gotten myself de-squishified, I was like, okay, I'm good. I'm in shape now. I don't have to do it. And he was like, no, you're going to do it. You need to do it. You need to do it for you. You need to do it for us. I know it'll be good for you. And I was like, but I don't want to. Please don't make me. And he said, I promise. I promise this will be good for you. And so I did it, and I won. He was like, I told you. I knew you were going to win all along. Like he's got like the magic ball or something. And then the same thing happened after I won Mrs. Texas. I was kind of like, okay, I got nothing to prove. I'm good. I don't have to do this. I don't want to do it. Let's just stay home and be cozy. And again, he just encouraged me, and he's a huge part of the reason why I'm successful. So I'm really grateful for the captain. We love the captain, and you'll see in pictures of us at appearances, he'll normally just stand in the background. He won't run out of the room. People really enjoy meeting him. They'll be like, oh, that's your wife? That's awesome. And he'll be like, yeah, I like her all right. And he really keeps me grounded, and he keeps me humble. So you know, just encourage your husband that it'll be all right. They don't have to do too much.
Austin, if I gave him a superhero title, he would totally buy into it.
Right.
I have to figure out a title. I can't take Captain America now. I have to give him another title.
It's the secret.
That's it.
Love it. Not only advice for you ladies, but for the husbands as well. Well, we are getting close to the end of our show, so I want to give everyone a moment to wrap up. So, Janice, let's start with you.
Okay, my platform is connecting pets with people, and it's not just adoptions and adopting pets. It's connecting people with lost pets in disasters. It's helping people keep their pets if they can't afford immunizations or pet food. I have resources on my website, which is janiceceleste.com. So my whole platform is to help people keep their pets so they don't have to put them into a shelter. I raise money for no-kill shelters so that they can take in more dogs. And we do that. We have a pageant which runs every few weeks online. There's a photo contest for dogs called Diva Dog Pageants on Facebook, so that we can do these things. They win crystal crowns and sashes for their dogs, and it's really popular on Facebook. So that's how I try to raise money, and I would be doing this whether I was in pageants or not. So that's my platform, and it's called Connecting Pets with People. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Janice. And Zereana, let's move on to you.
Hi, I'm Zereana again, and just wanted to let you guys know my platform is actually raising awareness and educating others about ovarian cancer. I am actually a first-year ovarian cancer survivor. I was diagnosed last March, and I'm just now getting my hair back. But instead of talking to you specifically about my platform, because you can go to my webpage to see about that, I just wanted to share for anybody watching this that's fixing to compete at the state level or even at nationals. When you're in competition, the night of competition, I really encourage you to go into that contemplative prayer mode, whether it's with your God or whether it's with yourself, but center yourself. I mean, take the time and take the weekend to get to know your sisters and really connect, but during the competition itself, center yourself, and I ask you, before you compete, to really think about why it is you're there. Because for me, I didn't want Xanax. I didn't want anything taking away from my ability to experience what it meant to be up on that stage. When I thought about where I was a year before, sitting in a chemo chair with no hair, thinking life was pretty much over, it was nothing short of a miracle that I was standing on stage. And so taking that moment to thank God for the journey and taking a moment to just really experience it was so important, and I think it expressed itself 100% on stage that evening, and I think it ultimately led to me winning this crown. So I encourage anybody competing, take the time to figure out why you're there and just experience, live it, and enjoy it. And congratulations for taking that step to just do it. Thank you, Stephanie, for having me.
Oh gosh, thank you for joining us, and good for you. That is fabulous. So excited. And Austen, let's move on to you.
My platform is human trafficking awareness. I know that you guys have probably heard me say this about 1,000,000 times, but I won't stop saying it because it is so incredibly important that we recognize that this is a problem that is not just someone else's problem, it's our problem. And the way that I have gone about promoting human trafficking awareness is through a film called 8 Days. I'm an actor and a model, and I had a role in the film 8 Days, which is based off of actual events about a girl from Texas who was kidnapped by friends from her school, friends in quotations, and sold into human sex trafficking. So it's an incredible film. Every dime that the film makes will go towards the building of safe houses and just helping survivors of human sex trafficking. If you'd like more information, go to www.8daysfilm.com.
Well, thank you, Austen, for joining us. And Kyle, let's move on to you.
Sure, absolutely. First thing I would like to say, Stephanie, is how honored I am to be a part of this. I mean, these women are so outstanding that I'm just thrilled as a pageant coach to have the opportunity to converse with such outstanding individuals. With the Mrs. Pageants, I just want to say that there are many differences in the Mrs. Pageants and other pageants, but there are a few things that remain true within the body of pageants. And so I just want to hit some quick bullet points for all Mrs. Pageants to remember. In interview, know your current events, know your platform, connect. It is a conversation. Practice it. first thing. In swimsuit, at the end of the day, it's about overall presentation. Your body must be in order. If you're not skinny, that's okay. Remember, you can be skinny and not fit. You can be curvy and be very fit. So be the best you that you can be in swimsuit, get your body to its fullest potential, and then make sure your hair and makeup is right, your accessory is right, and your modeling is on point. In gown, it is not the cost of the gown. I don't care if it's $50, I don't care if it's $5,000. Is it the right gown for you? And remember, fit and color trumps the price of the gown every day of the week. So make sure it's the right gown for you, regardless of the price tag or the designer. And an on-stage question, if you are fortunate enough to make the top 5, answer the question. Do not editorialize, do not preach a sermon, answer the question. More pageants are lost. Remember, you do not win a pageant and on-stage question, you lose a pageant and on-stage question. So answer it. And the most important thing is to believe in yourself. I say this to everyone. And never give up on your dreams, because the greatness is within you. Always remember that. And if you remember those points, you will be successful regardless of what pageant you choose to do, especially the Mrs. America pageant.
Awesome. Thank you, Kyle, so much. I loved having you on. Loved your coaching advice. Loved all of your advice and tips, ladies. We are so excited to watch you compete at the next level. You ladies are amazing, and we're excited for your journey, and we wish you all of the best. And viewers, thanks for tuning in. Be sure to visit us at PageantLIVE.com. And until next week, everyone, be sure to shine bright like a diamond. Bye,
good night. Bye, good night. Thank you, everyone.